Well, we never doubted James Franklin, not for 1 second, and neither did you. Grab your pencil and your paper. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show. All right. Well, Coach James Franklin, you got balls of solid rock. Bonus to anyone who can name the movie in the YouTube comments. Welcome, everybody, to the obligatory PSU pregame show. We're almost to the end of Penn State's regular season. Good things are happening. Believe it or not, we're at the We Are In, where there are rooms available right now for Penn State graduation weekend, okay? And all other events that may or may not happen in Happy Valley that weekend. So if you want to book a room for Penn State graduation weekend and any other events, We Are In is where you want to go. Go to the wearein.com to book. I'm your fake host, Chris Bucanati. With me, as always, is the beloved campus icon, Mike the Millman.
Thank you for welcoming.
I am happy, Mike, to be here in year 9 and have taken this whole journey and to be on the precipice of something really cool with you. And we're filming early this week because of the holiday. So Brandon Noble's still on his way back from the Seattle, Arizona games. So filling in, former Penn State offensive lineman Landon Tengwall.
Boosh, thanks for having me on, man. Every time I come on here, I get through about like 4 beers and some good laughs. So, it's a good time.
It's a good time.
And my fellow appropriately skeptical, but still ultimately supportive James Franklin guy, Kevin Hort.
Well, it's an honor to be next to the 2 biggest content whores in the Penn State media space between you two. They should get you a helicopter to go between the field and the We Are In, because I think my entire timeline is like you two and T. Frank, which, by the way, is all we need. Like, the credit to you, Landon. I haven't actually done a show in person with you yet. Like, what you're doing this year has been awesome. And really all you need, if you're a Penn State football fan, is For the Bloggy, Landon, and T. Frank, and you're going to be the smartest fan that exists if you just watch those 3 folks.
I love that. Wow. That's a great wrap up.
Yeah, that's a great introduction.
Well, we're all feeling pretty damn good right now at Tengwall. So let's get right into it. First, I want to pitch this to you guys, except for you, Mike, because I don't want any sunshine and rainbow nonsense. I want straight up answer. Boys, I felt like that game in Minnesota this past weekend had stakes that were such that if we won it, we were living in the universe we're in right now, where all things are possible. Penn State is on the brink of making the college football playoffs and hosting a game here in Happy Valley. And if we lost it, we are having a serious conversation today about, is it time for both sides to mutually part ways with Penn State and James Franklin? You buying that?
Yeah, it would have been dark times in State College if we would have lost to Minnesota, especially lost. Let's say it was the fake punt was not converted. I don't know. I think there's for sale signs coming up for people. I mean, there's a lot that's going wrong in Happy Valley if we lose that game to Minnesota. And I think everything starts to fall apart. I started to think mid-game, I'm like, I'm not gonna make a Maryland pregame. I'm like, why? I'm like, no one's gonna watch. Our season's over. I mean, I truly had that thought going through my mind. So I was very happy. I think Penn State fans were relieved. We seem to make it out of every game except Ohio State.
He finally did it, man. He finally did it. And what the irony is, like, the first year that you can be number 12 and still get in, he's going to be top 4 when he was never top 4. That's like the great irony of that. But look, I hate going to Minnesota. I mean, I actually like the town. There's a great place to drink, great dive bars, but like the fans there are nasty, like nasty. The nastiest in the Big Ten.
I remember you said that was one of the toughest road trips.
Horrible. Yeah. They're not into the game. They're just into shit talking you. And there's just so many ghosts in that stadium when you walk in. Like, that 2019 loss was one of the worst that I've ever experienced. I don't think it gets worse than that. And you walk in and you're seeing the same stadium features, and you remember just where you were sitting. And you go 3 and out, and then they score methodically. Yeah. Instantly. It's like, oh God, here we go again. I know how this ends. And finally he did it. I would have put any amount of money on the fact that Penn State was not going to be able to have a 5.5 minute drive to kneel the ball out and to win the game, to go to the playoffs, to get a home playoff game. I would have bet anything that they would have get stopped. And they almost did. I mean, they were 1-11 on 3rd down.
With the crazy stuff that happened in that game, the block punt, you lead a drive down the field. As time is expiring in the first half, we get a text from the proprietor of forthebloggy.com. That's a season-saving scoring drive.
Yeah.
And then they block the extra point and run it back, and we get never mind right after that. All of that happened.
That was really fun.
To me, boys, this season has felt like if I were to have sat down in August and made a greatest hits list of every complaint people have had about the James Franklin era of Penn State football, he has just been methodically crossing them off the list, which is why we need that rematch with Ohio State later on in the playoffs, so we can get that one out of the way too. But yeah, to your point, Kev, there were so many moments where it was going to be so easy to lose faith, and yet somehow this team, just like they did at USC, 5-0 on the road, undefeated on the road for the first time since 1985. They found a way to get it done.
And, we could call Penn State the best fourth down team in the country. Southern Cal, they made 2 great fourth down plays. And in this game, 2 fourth down, fourth and 1 or 4th and 3, and they made it. It's like, yeah.
And unlikely heroes, right? Like,
unlikely, you're right.
Like Julian Fleming has not had the year that he wanted to have, right? USC, if he drops one of those balls,
it's over.
We are having an argument now whether 10-2 Penn State should get in, right? Dom Ruley, who no one except for super fans has ever heard of, like running that fake punt play, calling it just
like, oh, it's great.
Not the stars that got it done in those moments, those 2 games that Penn State almost lost to ruin the season, but the unsung heroes, and that's a beautiful part of it all.
All right, so is Drew Aller clutch? I mean, okay,
yes, absolutely,
he's clutch. This year, I've seen nothing but clutchness. Ohio State. I get it. What happened. I don't think he was helped out by the people around him, the offensive line, the wide receivers, the coaching. Every moment he's had the ability to be clutch himself. I think I've seen it from him this year. That's not a way I would describe him as the opposite prior to that. And he has really stepped up.
He's been very good. I'm stealing this from T. Frank, who said it on the postgame show. Like, he's an enigma to me because I watched him do the golf show with you. Every interview, he's like so milk of toast and well-spoken. He never gives you anything, never too high, never too low, the soft-spoken, whatever. He's on the field this year. He's a nut. Oh, yeah. He's a nut. And so the guys that are like off the field are just like, oh yeah, I'm happy to be. And they're on the field and they're mother effing everyone and they're screaming and they're throwing helmets and stuff. Those guys are scary. Those are like terrifying guys. And Drew Aller is that. And he's just been a dog this whole year. He really has. Anyone who has anything bad to say about him this year, I mean, with what he has to work with, is just mistaken. I mean, completing 75% of your passes in a game like that, just give the man his due. It's the best Penn State quarterback play we've probably seen here in 20 years.
Yeah, Mike Portman did the interview with him preseason, and it kind of blew up a little bit where Drew Aller said, I want to be the thermostat, not the thermometer, and meaning that he's going to register and control the heat instead of just taking it. And he's really done that. And I think a lot of people, and even I said, that's hard to do. It's hard to just mentally be able to flip something and just say, okay, now I'm going to be this fiery, passionate individual. That's how I lead. It's hard to do that, but he really has done it. I mean, he deserves a lot of props. And then not only just off the field as a leader, on the field, you see the way he moves around in the pocket this year is entirely different. The amount of time that he buys, and then he also keeps his eyes downfield this year. And I think he's done a fantastic job. Definitely is one of his most conservative games, I think, against Minnesota. There was a couple times watching the film where he had a one-on-one with Trey Wallace deep and decided to check it off to Nick Singleton for a first down. I'm not mad at it. I'm not going to criticize him, but I would like to see him get back to being a little bit more of the risk taker that we saw in West Virginia, and not a risk taker in a sense of just being wild and just throwing dumb balls, but taking those good chances when you got an opportunity like.
And I don't actually mind him being conservative against Minnesota. I forgot just how brutal they are to watch. They are clock eaters. Penn State had 4 possessions in that second half. They get up on you and they just eat clock. Their offense doesn't even look like it's humming. And then you look up and it's like, oh, this has been a 5-minute, 30-yard drive. You just don't get the ball against them, right? So you throw an interception or whatever, and you're not going to get the ball again for 10 minutes. So I appreciated that about him in this game. More than perhaps other games where you just want to steamroll guys.
Do you want to know what I appreciate? I have been doing this show with you guys and Noble and loving it for 9 years. And every year we have had to make one of these shows that, God love you, in the audience, people have told us they really appreciate because it gives them catharsis and helps them deal with grief after a loss to a team we shouldn't have lost to. And it was looking for most of the afternoon on Saturday like I was going to have to do another damn one of those shows, and I didn't want to do it. And I'm just so happy to not be making that show, instead be feeling positive and upbeat and optimistic about the short-term and long-term future of this program. And Mike, I think you can appreciate with me that it was a big day for the Paisans on the Penn State football roster, between Dominic DeLuca and Dominic Rulli having big plays. You know, somewhere up there, the old man's smiling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He is, I'm sure.
What's it like, by the way, to watch a game like that and just to be eternally positive, Mike the mailman?
Well, yeah, but the offense was moving the ball. Years ago, they were not. This year, they're moving the ball. So there's no problems. Just like the Southern Cal game, they were moving the ball. I know you guys are excited about it. No problem. They're a good team. They're a very good team.
Look, anyone who knows Mike the mailman off screen, they were down 10-0, and you were screaming.
No way. No way.
Booch was actually sitting pretty much right there. He was right here. And I love watching games with Booch. It gets real quiet. And then there's still like the hope. And then once you get to about both games I've watched with them was Wisconsin and then Minnesota. And both games up until halftime was not very good.
Oh, no.
And so, I mean, we had 10 rushing yards at halftime on 13 carries. I mean, are we kidding? And really just the whole entire day, you look at it, you take away Luke Reynolds' rush, because it took us over 100 yards. It made the rushing total look a lot better. We were averaging like 2.5 yards per carry.
Yep.
It's not pretty. And now that Anthony Donka's out for the year, long-term injury, probably out for the year based on the press conference this week. We have a really hard time running behind Nolan Rucci, God bless him, but really hard time running on that side of the field when he's in the game. So those stats, I don't know. I mean, Singleton appears healthy now. He's a great check down guy, and he had a couple of decent runs, but it's telling that, you know, that last score before the end of the half, that response score when we're running the 1 minute offense, and we're just Warren, just throwing. They wouldn't even try to run. It was great. I'm like, thank God we don't have to mix in a run here, because we don't waste it down let's just drew air it out.
Obligatory Tyler Warren appreciation commentary. Now alone atop the all-time program list for 100-yard receiving games for tight end. By hook or by crook, against Maryland this weekend, we got to find a way to throw him a touchdown pass so he can be at the top of that list too.
You know what I didn't realize until this week? Well, after the game, he could have scored on that last play, obviously.
Yes.
And gotten the record for tight ends at Penn State. He chose to go down and not risk a Devin Ford situation.
Yeah, that's where
which is like, so if he doesn't get this record, he's got it in my book. Like that's, it's kind of like Jalen Pickett didn't get the all-time leading scoring over Taylor Battle at Penn State basketball because of the COVID stuff.
That's
like
right.
Warren falling out to one to just get the win and not have to risk the kickoff and any kind of tomfoolery that would always happen to us. Like, credit to him, so selfless, and that would have been the record. So credit to him.
Yeah, and I'll just say he's one of the best guys off the field. Normal guy that you'd want to have a beer with. So happy for him, happy for his family. Really great people, and should be easily a first-round draft pick. I'm sure with all those new school coordinator head coaches that are like innovative, they're looking at his film and they're like, oh my God, what I could do with this guy. So should be good for Warren.
He didn't get in the end zone, but I do love the receiving stats are going to be something that should probably pop for the people who are thinking about putting him in the mix for their Heisman ballots. And I would like Penn State to aggressively go out over the next couple of weeks and make the case for not only the stats, but how he got them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, make the point. Hey, this is the number 4 team in the country with their playoff spot on the line. This is do or die, the last drive of the game in the fourth quarter, and look at the plays this guy is making. And he makes it look effortless. In a year where there has not been a lot of standout quarterback play, to me, that guy deserves an invite to New York.
No question.
Absolutely. And I'll say one more thing about the game. You know, the 1-0 nonsense that like, there's no bad games. I'm on board. 1-0. I do not care how we won that game. I do. Paul Feinbaum might care. Josh Pate might care. All these SEC shills that are trying to get their 3-loss teams into the playoffs might care. We were 1-0. I do not care. That's it. Like finally, that was true this week. I'll give them that.
Yeah, certainly. Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, they would kill for a bad win. Like Penn State.
Like Landon said, you can say every time Penn State pulls out a one possession win against an inferior team, that night, like 3 SEC teams lose.
And by the way, to that point, let's not let go unmentioned that Oregon just struggled at Wisconsin last week and struggled to put away Idaho in the first week of the season. So, if I have to listen to Booger McFarland because he didn't watch the game and doesn't do any research, pretend we struggled against UCLA because we were up 27-3 with 16 seconds left. Can we not at least acknowledge that the number 1 team in the country had to struggle at home to put away the Idaho Vandals? And look, it just happens. Sometimes you're going to have a tough day. And the question is, do you win or do you not? And I don't care who DraftKings would install in a theoretical neutral field matchup. I care about who won and lost actual football games.
And what do they know? I think Penn State's really good this year. I've seen a lot of plays, a lot of teams this year. I think they're headed for the national championship. I do.
I know you do, Mike. And you know what? Look, we are. Hey, listen. Let me tell you.
You guys are laughing now, but
Well, we're drinking our anti-fragile beer. We're all high on life. Let me just say this, and this is and I'll be curious to get your reaction there, Tengwall. You yucking it up there when Mike says we're heading to the national championship. Here's what I think. I think this is a year, and I don't know, maybe it's an aberration. Maybe it's the start of a parity era that's a result of NIL plus the transfer portal. But either way, this is a season where you don't see one clearly dominant team. Right. And I think we're at a point where Penn State could lose to any contender in the playoffs. And I think we could beat any contender. You buying that?
Yes. Now, there's a couple stipulations where I am.
Now go talk about Alonzo Ford is out and Anthony Dock is out. All right.
I'm a little hazy in a couple places. If a team that we play has a defense like Ohio State, which I think is one of the best in all college football, but a Georgia, even not in Alabama anymore, they're probably out, but a good SEC team with athletes, if they can take away Tyler Warren, which we saw from Ohio State, they said, we're taking away Tyler Warren and we're going to give everybody else a one-on-one. What can you do? The answer was nothing. So, and even in Purdue, first half, wide receivers have 2 catches for 10 yards. Like it's a reoccurring theme. We can't really have a true number 1 wide receiver step up, and that's okay against, mediocre to decent teams like first round of the playoffs. But when you get to that second round, that's where you need someone else to step up. And Nick Singleton's been a big piece of the passing game. So that has been a really nice addition, 6 catches, because really Minnesota was just playing off. And they said, all right, we'll take that. Drew Allar will take that all day. But that's one of my main worries. And then the second worry, the offensive line has been a little shaky, was, kind of got roughed up against Ohio State. And then Minnesota, it was not so great. It was like 7 TFLs, and the run game really never got going. So
but these offenses have to go against Penn State's defense, and I think the defenses are good. I think Penn State I think their overall team is good. I mean,
I know this was before you got recruited here, young man, but if you think the offensive line play now is shaky, you just have no idea.
I will say, speaking of FanDuel, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to the national championship like mail fraud at the end there, but this is the first year where on a neutral field, Penn State would be less touchdown or less dogs or even favorites against some of these teams of anyone in the top 12 right now, right? There is so much parity, and Penn State's capable, as we've seen, we're going to win 11 games. Penn State's capable of mucking it up enough to pull one out. Yep. They are. And the 6th seed, by the way, and we'll get there later, the 6th seed, which is Penn State's most likely scenario, if everything goes chalk this rivalry week, that's like the best path, because then you get the ACC champion, and like if you win the first game against the 11, like that's the best path as far as I'm concerned. So,
and I just want to be clear. I only even started laughing because we were just dead silent, and Mike the man was just like, we're gonna win the national championship. It just caught me off guard.
You can laugh at it.
Why are you guys afraid to say that? It's easy.
No. I'm going to be honest. This is the best opportunity. There is not a juggernaut that I look at and say, "Oh, Penn State, there's no chance against them." Yeah. That really is the truth.
I will say, I was checking FanDuel after the game. Right, Penn State went, despite beating Minnesota, they went from 18-1 to win the national championship to 30-1. Mm-hmm. So the books did not think that was 1-0. The books took that for what it was.
Whatever.
What do they know?
Huff the fumes. Keep huffing the fumes, everybody. We're going to do trends to treasure, and we'll be back after that.
Show your receipts, mailman. Show you bet them. Don't steal money from these people.
Hi, everybody. Mike the Mailman with another edition of Trends to Treasure. As you can see, I'm really stepping up here this week. I think I'm doing well. The trends are doing well. Let's continue. Let's hope they continue. First off, we have Baylor versus Kansas. Baylor is 9-0 against the spread. the last 9 games. So the player, the Baylor Bears. Next up, we have Central Michigan at Northern Illinois. Central Michigan is 9-1 in the last 10 games, 5-0 in the last 5 away games. So the players are Central Michigan Chippewas. Next up, we have Virginia at Virginia Tech. Virginia is 1-6 in the last 7 games, 0-4 in the last 4 away games. So the players are Virginia Tech Hokies. And the last game this week, we have Appalachian State at Georgia State. App State is 1-5 in the last 6 games, 0-3 in the last 3 away games. So the players are Georgia State Panthers. That's it for this week's Trends or Treasure. Just remember to bet with your head and not with your heart. Go get them.
This segment of Obligatory is brought to you by Concierge Medical Associates. Whether you're a weekend warrior or elite level athlete, let Dr. Stephen Murphy and his board-certified sports medicine specialists keep you at the top of your game. Schedule an in-person or remote consultation at conciergemedical.ai. All right, we're having a good time here on the Obligatory PSU pregame show at the We Are In. Rooms are available for Penn State graduation weekend and any other events that may be occurring that same weekend. Check it out at thewearein.com. So, boys, we are in the enviable position of being able to now seriously have a conversation about Penn State's playoff positioning and not feel like we're really jinxing anything because, look, this Maryland team we're playing this weekend is bad. And if you can't beat this team with a playoff berth on the line on senior day, you should probably just disband the program.
Yeah, this one should be. We don't have, slogan is unrivaled. We don't have a rivalry, but
Right. Yeah,
Maryland is about as close as it gets. I'll tell you, the players get fired up. Like, we want to beat Maryland. There is a little bit extra hatred. Good. There's normally about a good 15 players on Penn State at minimum at a time from Maryland.
Yeah, you're a Maryland guy.
Yeah, I'm a Maryland guy. Yeah, I hate the program. It's pretty awfully run, and there's a reason why they're doing bad. And I don't feel bad about saying that.
And they did no handshake a couple years ago, didn't they? I think
a decade ago.
Yeah, maybe 15 years. Yeah, it was 20. Was that 2014?
That was a moment. That was definitely a moment.
Oh yeah.
And then they beat us, but we won't talk about that.
That's right.
Yeah, a couple bad losses. But.
So I do want to talk a little bit about possibilities here. I think most people, and I don't blame them for this because they're socially well adjusted and they have lives in our audience, probably has not followed too closely the playoff format. We talked about it. It's pretty confusing, I think, for fans. And so you look at these rankings that are released every week, and I think there's still some people who are looking at the fact that we're ranked number 4 who don't get the fact that that is not where we're going to be seated because those top 4 seeds are going to go to conference champions. Right. So I just wanted to run through a little bit about what you guys think are the most likely scenarios for Penn State coming out of this weekend.
No, man, you got to give it to them.
Well, they're going to win the national, as I told you.
No. But Michigan is going to beat Ohio State. Penn State's going to go to Indy, beat Oregon, and get a bye, right?
I'd rather not go to a championship game.
No?
Yeah. So what's the consensus on that?
Cheers,
do we all
by the way. I agree.
Don't you want a Big Ten championship?
I want to go to a Big Ten championship because I think winning a conference championship still matters. The odds of Penn State winning the Natty is low. Okay. And I think we would have a legitimate shot at beating Oregon, and I think that's important. That's an important thing to play for. You get the year up on the banister in Beaver Stadium, like that's forever, right? Big Ten championships forever. So I would take that opportunity. Now, would it stink to lose the home playoff game? That I would, experientially wise, I'd rather have the home playoff game than going to Indy 10 times out of 10. But getting a chance to play for a Big Ten championship, and if you lose, you're still probably a 6 seed. I'm taking that. And James Franklin said as much this week in the press conference that, they want to go. I mean, he can't say anything else, but I guess Lane Kiffin can. But James said, we want to go. Yeah. We want to go if we can go. Yeah. Now, look, Michigan's not beating Ohio State. That's all moot. Yeah. But that's just one
Will
scenario.
Johnson, that loser, already opted out. Can you imagine that you were one of the best players at Michigan and you quit football before the Ohio State game?
Well, I think that's the new thing. With bowl games not really mattering anymore. Those were already dead. If you're not in one of the New Year's Six in the playoffs, it's like, okay, now when the season is over, basically I lose 2 to 3 games. I'm just opting out.
You know what? I hope that guy gets drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars and has to win 4 games every year.
I don't get too far off track, but that plays into Maryland this weekend, right? So their starting quarterback, Billy Edwards, is dinged up. Yep. MJ Morris is their likely starter this weekend against Penn State. He started for NC State last season Played I can't talk. I'm sorry, audience. Played the first 4 games. Did well, and it's like, I'm opting out of the rest of the season. The starter, and he quit the team, and then he transferred to Maryland because they gave him a bag, and then he got second string. He didn't get the starting job, so he's an easy guy to root against. I hope Abdul Carter has 7 sacks and sends him into the stratosphere. But the same situation, like playing 4 games and quitting, just like it happened to UNLV this year. But MJ Morris, man, easy guy to root against for that kind of stuff.
To bring the conversation back to conference title games, and I honestly, Mike, I am kind of with you. I think for 2 reasons. Like, first of all, like full disclosure, like we're both among many local businesses that would love to make a little extra scratch off that home playoff game. Not to mention the fact that I've just become totally obsessed with how cool it's going to be in Happy Valley and in Beaver Stadium to get that game. But the other question is, it's going to be really interesting to see how the committee deals with teams that lose a conference championship game. Because theoretically, if you get into a conference title game, you had a season that meant you deserved to be there.
Right.
But if you end the year with the same number of losses as other teams in your conference that lost one of these crazy Byzantine tiebreakers that is like the Big Ten can't even figure out its own conference game tiebreakers, are you going to be punished for having an extra loss? And so you got to play an extra game and you're going to be seated lower than if you just sat at home and got like a functional bye week over a championship game weekend.
Plus you got an extra week rest.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
I don't see going to a conference any good. I don't think it's good at all.
Yeah, I think that they're saying it's not going to have too much of an effect, but we know that recency loss bias.
They lie all the time. They lie constantly.
And so, if a team just loses it, especially if you go and lose by like 14 points, you think they're not going to punish you for that?
Yeah, they will.
That's absolutely going to happen. So I think we're better off staying out of it and being the 6 seed. The 5 seed will probably be either Oregon or Ohio State, how I see it. We're the 6 seed, as long as Notre Dame doesn't jump us. And the 6 seed is pretty favorable. You're playing the number 11 team, which, who knows who that could be, but it should be a...
Who do you guys think is most likely? Because I agree. I think we're probably most likely to be the 6. Now, who knows? We'll see. That feels like by far the most likely outcome. Who do you think we end up with at the 11 spot? Because to me, it seems like it is most likely now, given all the upset losses in the SEC last weekend, to be either the Big 12 champion or the loser of the ACC title game. Like one of those 2 teams, I think, ends up in the 11th spot. You buying that?
No, I think it could be Tennessee as well.
You think so?
Yeah, it could be. So the conference championship game question is interesting, right? So whoever loses the SEC's conference championship game is going to be in the same situation as they were, essentially, right? If Georgia loses, they're going to go on the road for a playoff game. If Texas wins, Texas loses, they're going to get a home playoff game, and whoever wins gets to bye, right? Big Ten, same deal. Losers still host the playoff game. Even if Penn State loses, if somehow we go, somehow Michigan pulls it off, and Penn State goes, we lose, we're still hosting a game.
Yes. Oh, of course.
And if Oregon, Ohio, whoever loses Oregon, Ohio State, the most likely matchup, they're going to host a game, right? So the Big Ten, SEC are sort of set. Yeah. The interesting question is the ACC, right? If SMU goes and beats Miami, they get the bye. Does 2-loss Miami with 11-2 Miami stay in? I think they do.
I do too.
I think they do.
Now they do, I think.
But if SMU loses, I think they're out. I think they're out because that would be their 3rd loss. They're sort of teetering in the top 12, right? And the Big 12 is such a disaster.
That would be their 2nd loss.
Second, right. In conference, yeah. But they...
you think Clemson's in the mix at all?
Could be Clemson?
Clemson's sitting there at 12 now.
They beat South Carolina.
Yeah. And Clemson there at 12, they beat South Carolina, and they probably don't go to the conference championship game. Not going to the game would benefit Clemson more than anyone, probably, because Clemson's going to be above probably Ole Miss and Alabama, 3-loss SEC teams. Yeah. And so Clemson could slide in there. We could host Clemson, honestly. We really could.
Yeah. So here's my guess. I think the brands of the ACC and the Big 12 conferences are trash. Again, going back to what people maybe don't understand about the setup, it is looking like Boise State is going to end up ranked above the Big 12 champion, so probably going to get a first-round bye. But it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out. But if James Franklin were here, which he's not, he would just say, boys, Maryland. Got to go 1-0 this week. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll randomly generate numbers.
Random Number Generator is brought to you by the good folks at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Anti-Fragile is the official beer supplier fueling the obligatory pregame show. Anti-Fragile brews incredible beer we all enjoy and recommend. And check out their Moody Culture Kombucha and fill up on Uncle John's cheesesteaks. Check them out when you're in Happy Valley at 324 East Calder Way or anytime at antifragilebrew.com.
We are at the end of Penn State's regular season. We got the Maryland Terrapins coming to town for senior day. A playoff spot is on the line. We are here at the We Are In, and a reminder, if you, for any reason, would care to come up to Happy Valley for Penn State graduation weekend and any other events that we don't want to jinx that might end up on the calendar, there are rooms available at the We Are In. Right now, we appreciate them hosting us all throughout the regular season.
I'm graduating. I'll be there. So if you guys want to come out.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe this is what we'll do. We'll do a party in Beaver Stadium that Saturday before my graduation on Sunday.
That's a good idea.
There you go. Cheers.
A Tangwall graduation party.
All right. We'll have a graduation party in Beaver Stadium. Well, maybe noon, maybe 3:30. Who knows?
Who knows?
Whatever time.
Yeah.
So, and come and stay at
that party could even, God forbid, be on a Friday night.
It very well could be, but make sure you come and stay at the We Are In. And some great food. I finally had my first meal here. Dude, let me just say, I left the happy. I had some garlic garlic Parmesan wings, and then a meatball sub, and I was happy. I was feeling good.
If you're here at the We Are In, honestly, it is like one of the coolest spots to enjoy watching a Penn State football game because there's Penn State stuff everywhere. If you're a wing sauce person, you like the hot sauce, try the Dragon Fire wings. Just make sure you're going to be at home about 5 hours later and you can thank me later.
They've got clean bathrooms here, single seaters. It's fine.
That's a good place to get some business done, for sure.
Okay. We always like to be honest and upfront with the audience here on this program. It's been a tradition since we started it. This Maryland team stinks. They are terrible. I am not worried about this game at all. And I worry all the time, as Mike will attest. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I used to, so I'm from Maryland, and I used to go to Maryland games as a recruit. You can't obviously go to the away team. They can't host recruits. And anytime Penn State or Ohio State would come into town, I would say, "Hey, Maryland, take a free trip. I want to come. I want to come in for a visit. I get some good food, and then I go down and I watch Penn State. That was the stretch where we won 63-3, 73-3, and so that was kind of what I witnessed in my high school recruitment time period. And I don't expect it to be much different. And I think Coach Franklin wants to send a little bit of a statement, capping off the season and making sure we're solidified where we're at. So are we going right into the score predictions?
Do you want to if you want to randomly generate numbers right now, go right for it.
I'm going to randomly generate, give me 56-7. I think it's going to be a beatdown. Like I said, a lot of guys got a point they want to get across against Maryland.
James Franklin with Maryland is a lot like Bill Belichick with the Jets. Like, just always finds a way to put it to them. We get into the 50s on the regular against Maryland, so that would not shock me. A couple of other numbers. If they lose this game, and we all feel strongly that they will, Maryland will finish with a 4-8 record, which is the worst record in the Mike Locksley era. Like, he has had a knack for pulling the early season upset in the non-conference and getting everyone excited, and then finishing the year with 5 wins and not going to a bowl game. But this year they've been pretty bad.
And he thought he did. He beat USC. That's the most recent win, like a month and a half ago. And they thought, there's the Mike Locksley magic, and they're going to go. But they've just been a disaster since then.
I will tell you a real quick story. Mike Locksley, this is in 2020. And I'm already committed to Penn State, haven't signed yet. And so this is after they beat us in the COVID year, which that sucked. And then he FaceTimes me later that week with Tulia. And he's like, "Look at this. We're just watching the tape of us whooping y'all ass." And he just shows me the tape. I swear to God. And I was like, it just made me hate him more. But that is my last memory. That's the last time I think I talked to Mike Locksley. So
Mike Locksley.
Nothing to lose.
Mike Locksley is like Dollar Tree Pat Narduzzi, which is just amazing to me. Like, how can you be that obnoxiously arrogant and yet also like the coach of Maryland and Mike Loxley. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
He's an SEC guy. You get a pass.
That's fair. That's fair. But listen, if you need fuel to hate these guys and the handshake game was not enough, there's another great example.
There you go.
All right. So, yeah. This is strangely enough, it's a one-dimensional team statistically. They don't have a lot of success running the ball, but they're actually not that good passing. It's more a testament to the weakness of their run game.
So they can't do anything.
Yeah, I think, we talked a little bit before the camera started rolling, and we talked about it last week too, about how Abdul Carter is basically unblockable at this point. And it's to the point where the refs are just kind of letting offensive linemen do whatever they want, unless it gets super egregious. I think he eats on Saturday.
Yeah, I think he's going to get after whoever they put back there at quarterback. And you're right. It feels like the refs are almost saying to Abdul and each other, he's so good, we got to let them hold just a little bit against Abdul Carter. Like they get one tug. If it's like it's like a second and a half of a tug, all right, we might throw something. But at the end of the day, he fights through it, and he is really starting to come on at defensive end. You're starting to see him really actually use his hands and execute pass rush moves instead of just trying to duck around the edge and beat the guy with speed. And to watching him evolve, I'm sad that we only really got this Abdul for kind of the back half of his last season, but still nonetheless fun to watch. He's on our team, and I think he's going to have a big impact on Maryland. And then obviously we're going to need him headed into the playoffs.
Well, it's a lot better than we got from Micah Parsons in 2020. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. Random number generator time. Mike the mailman, hit me up.
Iowa scored 29 points on Maryland, right?
They did.
So I think, I think they want to showcase Tyler Warren. So he's in that conversation for the Iceman. I mean, whether he obviously probably won't win it, but you want him to go there anyway.
Get him the invite. Yeah, that's great.
So I think they're going to use him a lot in the first half, and but I think Penn State will probably win by 29.
Failure to follow directions as usual. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Kevin Horn, randomly generate numbers.
Yeah, line's 24.5. It could change by the time you watch this, which it seems about right. They have a wide receiver named Ty Felton, who would be our probably wide receiver number one.
Stop. Yeah, go ahead.
He's good for 10 to 12 catches a game and 100 plus yards. He's actually pretty good. But if MJ Morris is in, who is a loser and he stinks and is everything wrong with college football, I'm hoping he gets to start. I think we will feast. I think Abdul and Keziah and Zane Durant will just absolutely feast on him, and I hope that's the case. But they do have a little bit of life in the offense. They have some high-scoring games. Like, they've gone over most of the games this year because they give up so many points. Their defense is just atrocious, and Kai manages to catch a few balls and they manage to score some points. So, and I have to be negative at least once this show. I have very little faith in Penn State's second string defense, as we've seen in the few garbage time moments they've had this year. So I'm just going to say 42. No, I'm not going to say that. They're not going to score 42 points. I'm going to say 38-24. It'll be uncomfortable and annoying, but we're still going to win handedly. I mean, we're going to know by the third quarter. I do think it's important. We didn't talk about this last segment. Like, there's an argument that Notre Dame could be ahead of Penn State. I mean, their loss is horrible and our loss is great. Yeah. But Notre Dame's been just trucking everyone since they lost to Northern Illinois, including Army, which I think is a very good team. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some debate in the committee about Penn State or Notre Dame, 6 versus 7. So I do think style points matter a little bit. You don't want this game to be close. You have 2 close games against, frankly, bad teams in Minnesota and Maryland being much worse. And there could be some murmurs about, hey, Notre Dame should be the 6 and Penn State should be the 7. So I do hope we stick it to them. But I do think that Maryland stays within the number.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like the recency loss bias, like it's a thing. If Notre Dame would have done this last week, they might not make it in the playoffs. I don't think they would. I think they'd be dropped out of the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's all about they lost in week 2, whatever that was. So if I want to be negative with them for a second, one thing I'm worried about. Alonzo Ford, long-term injury. We're in the last week, probably out for the year. Hakeem Beamon left. Defensive tackle went from being like a really deep position to like, okay, not feeling as good anymore. But still some, obviously Zane Durant is the best defensive tackle I've seen with my own 2 eyes that has played at Penn State, which is from like 2016 on. So I don't know, probably since like Devin Still was pretty good, I would say. Great. So
Jordan Hill,
yeah. We had some ballers, but yeah, I mean
Okay. Well, then it's my job to counterbalance the negativity, be positive again. This game reminds me of '05, Penn State goes out to Michigan State. In 2008 and 2016, they host Michigan State. That used to be the end of the slate every single year. Look, mathematically, Nittany Lions could have lost any of those games. They weren't losing them. They're not losing this one. I do agree you want to leave no doubt. I've got Penn State winning this one 48-14. Noble could not be here. He's coming back from calling Seahawks Cardinals. He did send me his score predictions, so let's go to that.
Hey, guys. Just sitting here in the parking lot, getting ready to go grocery shopping for Thanksgiving dinner and for the rest of the week, I guess. It's packed, so I'm kind of sitting here delaying the inevitable, fighting through the crowds and looking for the things that my wife put on the list that I need to get. So that should be a good time. And the crowd's not going to get any smaller in the next 45 seconds, so I might as well go on in there and get it done. So before I do that, I will give you my random number generator picks because Buchanani can't just let me go a week without doing this. So you know what? Actually, let's talk about the Golden Gophers first. It was a win. It was a win, and a win is a win, and it's a tough place to play against a team that has basically built its reputation on stealing football games and spoiling seasons, especially at home. And so I think we did a good job of going out there and getting the win. That boat rowing son of a bitch, PJ Fleck and his stupid vests, he didn't get us this time. So pretty excited about that. I do think that we kind of got what we paid for there, though, after being obsessed with the 99 season and all the struggles that we've had against the Gophers when it matters. So, So I think we beat the hell out of the Terrapins, the Turtles, Maryland, and they're just not very good. So let's go 48-14. Penn State wins. Everybody's happy. Everybody's laying on the sofa. Hopefully sick to their stomachs from eating leftovers on Saturday. And we're getting ready for a home playoff game at Beaver Stadium in December. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right. That's it. That is the final random number generator of the regular season. We want to thank all of our sponsors. We want to thank the We Are In, especially Pat Romano being an unbelievable host all season long. We want to thank Concierge Medical.ai. We want to thank Anti-Fragile Brewing Company for getting us through all the good and bad spots.
Need another one.
Yeah. And if you happen to be in town for Landon's graduation party.
My graduation party.
Penn State graduation
Friday and
weekend.
Saturday.
You can stay at the We Are In. You can come downtown, go down to Calder Way, and have a couple of beers and a cheesesteak at Anti-Fragile. We want to thank you, our audience. We want to thank the folks at forthebloggy.com. We are excited to be back with you for the college football postseason, and that'll be right around the corner. So enjoy the week, enjoy your Thanksgiving until we talk to you next. Take care of yourselves and each other. We got 5 more shows. Big Ten Championship and 4 playoff shows. Amen, brother.